if our decisions are based on measurements that have been put in place to control cost and only cost, our behavior will be governed by them. And this kind of behavior is what we call the behavior in the cost world. In the cost world, the assumption is that the global optima is equal to the sum of local optimas, and we behave accordingly. There is an assumption in this behavior. The assumption in this behavior is that it is the variability at every stage or every part of my business which is affecting my output. So what I do, I put into place a control mechanism so that these variabilities and the effect of these variabilities on my business performance is reduced. And how do I know what is the degree of variability? That's the measurement I put in place. So what this does is, it says that to increase the output of my company, I have to reduce variabilities everywhere. And to reduce variabilities everywhere, I make sure that every department, every section has something to measure its performance on, and if this performance constantly shows an improvement, I am convinced that the output of the system is protected. In fact, this is one approach of management. It is a tough one because it requires you to control so many different parts. It also says that every initiative put in every of this department for improvement will land up improving the company. Let us see how do we approach it. Let's say how I manage it. There's an undesirable effect in the company. I find out the department from which this undesirable effect comes, and I start an initiative. If this initiative shows an improvement, my overall company performance will improve. So the approach to managing my company is reduce variability everywhere. Now, on the other hand, is a totally different mindset of managing, a totally new paradigm, which is called the throughput world. That says, or that assumes, a big thing is something which a system produces finally and sells it is what is going to make it meet its objective of making money. Now it says that whatever is limiting the output of the system is the place where to focus your initiatives on. One says focus everywhere, which in its true sense means focus nowhere, but it says break the company into small parts and make sure you have initiatives of improvement everywhere, and if these initiatives show some results, the company performance will go up. That means it will make more money. On the other hand, there is a thought process which says the company performance or the output of the company is governed by one or two places maximum, and focus on them. And if the output from this limiting factor improves, the company performance improves. But this is in many places in contradiction to our current mindset. It becomes a tougher way of managing the company than the existing one. Let me begin with an analogy. Understanding costs and trying to control costs by using efficiency measures force us into a mode of behavior. This behavior is called the variability behavior. It says the huge fluctuations or the poor performance of a company is because of variability everywhere. There's variability in vendor performance, there's variability in machine, there's variability in quality, there's variability in human behavior. So focus on all this and reduce variability everywhere. This stretches the company performance or the company resources thin. The resulting increase in performance is slow. A quantum jump in performance may not happen in a short period of time. On the other hand is throughput world, which says the company performance is limited by very few limiting factors. Focus on them, and if there is a jump in performance of these limiting factors or the weakest links, the company performance will jump. This is 180-degree opposite to the cost world. There we said focus everywhere or take initiatives everywhere. Here we are saying take initiatives only in very few places. Let me draw an analogy. If I see every link in the chain as a department and the weight of the chain equivalent to the cost that this department incurs, and I am managing this chain from the point of view of the cost department, I would say that the weight of the chain, the total weight of the chain, which is equivalent to the cost, is what I have to reduce to make more profit. So I call every department head. I said, your efficiency measures are, please reduce your weight. The manager of the link 1 comes and says, sir, I have reduced the weight by 10 grams. The link number 2 manager comes and says, I have reduced it by 15 grams. Link number 3 comes and says, sir, I have reduced it by 40 grams. Link number 4 says, sir, sorry, I have not reduced any. So 40 plus 10 plus 15. 65 grams of weight has gone down. And yes, we buy this metal in kgs and the rate is kgs, and I call each one of them and reward them in accordance to the amount of weight they have reduced, because actually they have saved my cost. And right now the link number 3 is the one who is most heavily rewarded because he saved the maximum weight. He is my star performer. Now, having done that, I believe that now the performance of my chain has become better because now my cost is down, okay, and the chain will do better. This is the cost world approach to managing. And yes, the sum of reduction of weight in every department did add up to the total reduction in weight. Let's come to the throughput world. In the throughput world, we view chain as an organization for performance. Performance would mean that does it meet its purpose or not. So chain is designed intention. It's designed to pull things. And for that, the chain should have strength. And for that strength, a thickness is designed. So if chain is designed for pulling and it has to meet its purpose, the strength of the chain is actually the strength of its weakest link. It doesn't matter how strong the strongest link is, but if the weakest link snaps, the chain breaks and it does not perform what it's supposed to. Now, the manager calls the department heads again and says, under the throughput world, the biggest criteria is performance. So now, the in charge of the chain calls the department heads and says, I want you to improve the performance of your links. Now, we know the link number 4 is the weakest link. Link number 1 comes back and says, sir, I have improved the performance by 10%. The link number 2 says, I have improved the performance by 20%. The link number 3 says, I have improved the performance by 40%. And link number 4, the weakest link, says, I haven't improved the performance at all. So has the strength of the chain gone up? No. Whatever improvements the other 3 links have shown does not improve the performance of the chain. The performance of the chain will only improve if the weakest link in the chain improves. If the strength of the weakest link does not improve, the chain still breaks when its strength is surpassed. So do you think the in charge of the chain is going to call these 3 and reward them? In fact, he will not even focus on them. What is the use of trying to improve something which is not limiting your output? Suddenly, what was a high performance initiative in the cost world, in the throughput world, it stops being a performance measurement. Now, if the company has to focus, it has to focus only on the weakest link. Now, after all the initiatives that you take, you go and tell the weakest link to do some improvements, and that guy improves barely by 2%. But at least the performance of the chain has gone up by 2%. We can do much more than that. Whereas in the cost world, we were focusing on ourselves, on individual departments, and we were rewarded for showing results in individual departments. In the throughput world, we are rewarded for focusing on the weakest link, which is probably not your department. So we start focusing how to take load off the weakest link, because others have enough capability, enough capacity to take this load off. So here we have to develop sets of principles and processes which make sure that we don't overload the weak link, how we make sure that the weak link always performs to its best. Any drop in its performance will be a drop in performance of the whole chain, and if the chain drops in performance, it does not meet its purpose. If I consider this as an organization instead of a chain, suddenly the individual departments or the individual efficiency measures that I put in place doesn't seem to hold anymore. Now, that means I am looking at my manufacturing organization from a very different perspective. Now, if these old ways were working till now, they continue to show some results. Many times they succeed, many times they don't succeed, sometimes they just barely manage to scrape through. That means they're surviving. It is working. If it is working, how can I just change it into a new one? And if I don't understand the new one, I'll cause more chaos. This throughput world needs to be analyzed, needs to be understood, because you should have an ability and strength and management commitment to move from the cost world to the throughput world. Why would you move to the throughput world? If you move to the throughput world, the performance enhancement will be quantum and quickly. You can do more with less resource. You will focus at a place where the focus is required, and so the impact on your performance will be much more.